Hello everyone, my name is Morenike St. Michael Beremu. Welcome to the Let's Talk series. Today we'll be talking about differentiating teaching and learning. We do know as educators that teaching is different from learning. Teaching can take place without learning, as we have seen in a lot of these online um, exercises that took place, in recent times because of the pandemic. And learning can also take place without teaching. As we see that children can learn on their own, there are some things you see a child displayed and nobody taught them. They pick up from within the environment and they learn. So, differentiation is ensuring that every child in your class does learn, at a pace that's comfortable for them. Today, I want us to look about 7 things, that can make that possible within the classroom. I want us to remember that this is not a complete list of anything. It's just suggested ways, and I want you to think about what's convenient for you, because what you practice will depend on who you are and who the children you are teaching are. In no particular order, I would like to start with grouping. Grouping is one way to differentiate learning for your children. You can group them according to ability, you can group them according to talent, according to intelligence, because we do know that we have multiple intelligence. So children can be intelligent in different ways. So you can differentiate your classroom, your lessons along that side by grouping that way. So what you want to be careful of is not to be caught putting down children according to their ability. And we can do that unconsciously by consistently putting a child in one group. Sometimes a teacher can say this table is for high ability, that table is for low ability, and you find that perpetually this child is sitting there. That's not a good practice. A child can be high ability in English and low ability in maths, and as they grow up, that's how come we differentiate them into science class, arts class, and so on, because children have different interests, so you can differentiate children along that line, by grouping them, giving them tasks. You have to know that peer mentoring goes on when we put children in groups, as well as um, um, skills development, because a child sees one child doing something and he copies it consciously, sometimes or unconsciously, within their group. So that's a good way of differentiating. And even within the group, you can give children different tasks. So this is my group, but this is what I do, this is what this child does, and that meets our needs. you know um, the second way that you can differentiate within your lesson is by pace. By pace, it means that the lesson is moving at a way that includes every child. The child that learns quickly can learn within that lesson, and the child that learns not so quickly can also learn within your lesson. How do you do that? You ensure that there is work suitable for everyone. The ones that learn very quickly, as soon as they have learned, within the first few minutes of your lesson, they have things that keep them engaged, that continue to challenge them, you know while you can now continue with the ones that are learning at a slower pace. So this means that before you go into class, you would have done a lot of planning. The children don't have to be in groups in this case, because you already know who's who, so you are coming prepared for them. The third thing that you can differentiate with will be the task that you give to the children, within your lesson. the tasks might be maybe say the worksheets, but what you must be careful to note is that the learning objective of all worksheets must be the same. The learning objectives must be the same. So it's not like this one is learning something totally different, this one is learning totally different. No, your learning objective for any lesson is the same for every child. However, the tasks that help every child get there would be different. It would be according to what's comfortable for the child to do, to show you that they're learning. Fourthly would be the resources. There are simple to complex resources when you are teaching. For instance, when children want to look for words, or they want to use the thesaurus, or they want to, whatever it is that is the task within the lesson, you want them to use resources. There are simple resources, there are complex resources. They're still doing the same thing, only that a child that can use something more complex can use something more complex. Like, for instance, in the early years, say you're looking at puzzles. You can give a puzzle that has 10 parts to one child, and another puzzle that has maybe 50 parts to another child. They are still fitting in the puzzles, but the resources are different. You know what I mean. Another thing that you would differentiate would be outcomes. In that case, everyone does the same thing, but that this one probably cannot, the outcomes will be different. So say for instance you want them to draw something. You do know that one child will draw better than another. So however, there are certain features. What comes most readily to my mind would be in writing, in creative writing, as we call it. When children use the specific features of the writing style or the genre that you have taught, then they can use vocabulary according to their skills. So one child may be able to write you a full page or 2 pages, and another child writes just about half a page. However, they have used the same features and everything else that you have taught them. So the outcomes will be different, but it does not mean that they have not learned. So when you are marking, you are looking at just the key features of the writing. You are not looking at the length, because the child that writes 3 pages might just be a child that likes to write. So you differentiate the outcome. Again, you want to differentiate language, dialogue, and support. Some children would raise their hands 100 times within the lesson, or when you have given a task, because they have not understood. So that kind of child, you want to differentiate the dialogue that you have with them and the support that you give. You may consistently be asking questions within the lessons and going near them and asking questions. What have you drawn? What have you done? Do you think this is correct? Do you want to look at it again? And things like that. Meanwhile, another child may be able to work independently. In fact, some children really won't need your support in any way, so long as whatever it is that they're doing is adequately challenging, and they understand what it is that they ought to be doing. Finally, what we can differentiate would be assessment. Usually within your lesson would be plenary. So the questions you would be asking the children would be from simple to complex, so that every child has the opportunity to learn. And then if you are using, say, Bloom's taxonomy, which promotes higher order thinking, your questioning would become more complex, along the way, so that every child is able to find a comfort zone, at the end of it all. And as a school, when you're assessing children, or even within your lesson, it's good to have the coursework system whereby continuous assessment is part of how your children are assessed, because some children don't do well during just examinations for different reasons. Some children just freeze when it's exam period. So it's not fair to that child if all that accrues to them is just the exam, that they write. So when you use the coursework system, you are using continuous assessment, to help those children. You would find those that will do well, with the base of that continuous assessment, while some won't do well in the course of the continuous assessment, but during examinations, they will do well. The whole point of education in the era that we are in is to help every child succeed, unlike back in the day when the teacher's purpose is to make you fail. I mean, quote unquote fail, because some teachers will tell you, you can't get all my marks no matter what you write or no matter what you do. The intention from the get-go is not to let all children pass, but that focus has shifted now. The whole point of education now is to help every child succeed. So I have put this in a nutshell together so that you don't have to waste a lot of data. You would look at grouping your children, you would look at the pace of your lesson, you would look at the task that you give to the children, you would look at the resources that you use for the children. Some would be audio, some would be visual, some would be kinesthetic, where the children are involved in doing whatever it is. So you would have the outcome, then you would have, the outcome, you would give all of the children the same things, but your expected outcomes will be different for them. You will differentiate your dialogue and the support that you give to the children. Some children need more support than others. Some will need you to reassuring them along the line. And then finally, you differentiate your plenary, which is your assessment, ensuring that you help every child succeed. Some children would need more time. Some children would need to be kept away from others. In fact, in some assessments, some children need to be taken to a different room entirely, because some of them will see a fly pass by, they will drop the pen and be going around the room with the fly, or they are distracted by what they hear. Some children cannot write. We would look sometime in the future at different types of needs that you find within your classroom. But some children can actually have dysgraphia, which makes writing hurt a great deal for them. So such children, it will be okay for them to use the computer to type whatever it is that you want, that you're assessing them on. So with these 7 points of mine, I'm sure, and developing quite a few of yours, you should be able to deliver a lesson that is accessible to all kinds of learners in your classroom. I've made this very short, and I want to say thank you for being here. See you sometime soon. Bye.